Let me say this clearly and gently, not everyone who enters your life is to stay. Some people come to teach you what you will no longer tolerate. The smartest way to deal with toxic people is not to fight them, change them, or expose them. The smartest way is to see them clearly and then choose yourself. Toxic people thrive on reaction. They feed on your explanations, your emotional energy, your guilt, and your hope that this time will be different. But wisdom teaches us that behavior is a language. And when someone consistently shows you disrespect, manipulation, or negativity, believe what you see, not what you wish were true. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because you share history, blood, or time. Love does not require self-abandonment. Loyalty does not mean enduring emotional harm. One of the most powerful things you can do is stop engaging in battles that cost you your peace. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to correct every lie. You don't need to explain your growth to people committed to misunderstanding you. The smartest response is boundaries. Boundaries are not walls built from anger. They are doors built from clarity. They say, this is how I expect to be treated. And if you can't respect that, you don't get the same access to me. Sometimes the smartest move is silence. Silence. Silence confuses those who expect your reaction. Distance protects you from those who drain you. And choosing peace over drama is a sign of deep emotional intelligence, not weakness. Understand this. Toxic people often resist your growth because your healing exposes their behavior. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, and stop rescuing, they lose power. You don't need closure from people who lack accountability. You don't need apologies to move forward. Closure comes from deciding that you deserve better. The smartest way to deal with toxic people is to stop negotiating your worth. It's to honor your intuition. It's to walk away without hatred, without revenge, but with self-respect. Because when you choose peace, you choose power. And when you choose yourself, you change your life. One of the most important life lessons you will ever learn is this. People tell you exactly who they are, not through what they say, but through what they repeatedly do. Words can be beautiful, convincing, and emotionally powerful. Promises can sound sincere and full of hope, but patterns, consistent patterns, never lie. If someone continuously brings chaos, disrespect, manipulation, or negativity into your life, no amount of apology can erase that truth. Many people stay trapped in toxic relationships because they fall in love with potential instead of reality. They believe in the version of someone that appears during good moments, heartfelt conversations, or emotional apologies. But wisdom teaches us to look deeper. Ask yourself, not what did they say this time, but what have they shown me over time? A single mistake can be forgiven, but repeated behavior is a choice. When someone keeps choosing the same harmful actions, they are communicating their priorities clearly. Toxic individuals often use promises as tools. They promise to change, to do better, to understand you, to respect your boundaries. These promises are not always lies. Sometimes they genuinely mean them in the moment. But meaning something briefly is not the same as living it consistently. Real change requires effort, accountability, and time. Without those, promises become distractions that keep you emotionally invested while nothing truly improves. Another painful truth is that toxic behavior is often subtle. It may show up as passive-aggressive comments, constant criticism disguised as jokes, emotional guilt, or playing the victim when they are confronted. Because it is not always loud or obvious, you may question your own feelings. You may wonder if you are being too sensitive, too demanding, or too dramatic. This is exactly how patterns are ignored. When you excuse behavior again and again, you teach others how to treat you. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions with certain people. Do you feel drained, anxious, confused, or smaller than you were before? Your emotions are signals that they are not random. A healthy relationship leaves you feeling respected and safe even during disagreement. A toxic one leaves you doubting yourself and constantly trying to earn basic kindness. The smartest thing you can do is stop arguing with the evidence in front of you. Stop rewriting the story to make it easier to stay. Stop believing that love means endurance. Growth begins when you accept reality as it is, not as you hope it will become. Recognizing patterns does not make you cold or heartless. It makes you aware and self-respecting. When you finally accept someone for who they consistently are, not who they promise to be, you gain clarity. And clarity is power. It allows you to make decisions that protect your peace, your energy, and your future. Because the moment you stop trusting words and start trusting patterns, you stop being manipulated and start being free. There comes a moment in life when you realize that winning an argument is far less important than protecting your inner peace. Many people exhaust themselves trying to explain, justify, or defend their feelings to toxic individuals who have already decided not to understand. They believe that if they just say the right words, in the right tone, at the right time, everything will finally make sense. But the truth is, some people are not confused, they are committed to misunderstanding you. Toxic people often pull you into endless debates, emotional loops, and conversations that go nowhere. They challenge your reality, dismiss your feelings, and shift blame until you feel drained and frustrated. These arguments are not about resolution, they are about control. When you engage, you give them your time, your energy, and your emotional attention, the very things they thrive on. And no matter how logical or calm you are, the goalposts keep moving. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that clarity does not come from convincing others. It comes from being honest with yourself. You do not need validation from someone who benefits from your confusion. You do not need agreement to be right. Your experience is valid even if someone refuses to acknowledge it. Peace begins the moment you stop trying to prove your pain to people who refuse to see it. Choosing peace does not mean you are weak, passive, or afraid of confrontation. It means you are wise enough to know which battles are worth fighting and which ones are simply stealing your life force. Not every disagreement deserves a response. Not every accusation requires a defense. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. When you stop engaging in pointless arguments, something powerful happens. You regain control over your emotions. You stop reacting and start responding with intention. Silence becomes a boundary, not a surrender. Distance becomes a form of self-care, not punishment. You realize that your calm is not something to be negotiated or sacrificed for someone else's comfort. There is also a deep form of self-respect in walking away from conversations that demand you betray yourself. Every time you choose peace over proving a point, you are telling yourself, my well-being matters. You are choosing growth over ego, healing over chaos, and clarity over confusion. And that choice compounds over time. People who are used to provoking reactions may label you as cold, distant, or changed. Let them. Growth often makes others uncomfortable, especially those who benefited from your emotional availability. You do not owe anyone constant access to your energy. You are allowed to outgrow dynamics that cost you your peace. At the end of the day, peace is not something you find, it is something you protect. And once you understand that your peace is more valuable than being right, more valuable than being understood, and more valuable than winning any argument, you step into a quieter, stronger, and far more powerful version of yourself. One of the most misunderstood concepts in personal growth is the idea of boundaries. Many people believe that setting boundaries means being rude, selfish, or emotionally distant. In reality, boundaries are none of those things. Boundaries are an act of self-respect. They are the clear lines you draw to protect your time, your energy, your values, and your emotional well-being. Toxic people often react strongly to boundaries, not because the boundaries are wrong, but because they remove access. When someone is used to crossing your limits, your silence feels like rejection. When someone benefits from your availability, your no feels like a personal attack. But a healthy person respects boundaries. A toxic one resists them. Setting boundaries does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop over-giving. It means you stop explaining yourself to people who consistently ignore your needs. You are not responsible for how others feel about the limits you set. You are only responsible for being honest and consistent with yourself. Many people delay setting boundaries because they fear conflict, abandonment, or guilt. They worry that saying no will push people away. But the truth is boundaries do not push the right people away. They reveal who was only there because you had none. If someone disappears when you stop overextending yourself, they were never connected to you, only to what you provided. Boundaries can be quiet. They do not always require long speeches or emotional confrontations. Sometimes a boundary is not answering immediately. Sometimes it is changing the topic. Sometimes it is leaving the room. Sometimes it is choosing distance instead of drama. You do not have to announce every boundary you set. Your actions can speak for you. There is also a deep emotional healing that comes with boundaries. When you protect yourself, you send a powerful message to your nervous system that you are safe. You stop living in constant anticipation of emotional harm. You begin to trust yourself again. And that trust changes everything. It is important to understand that boundaries are not meant to control others. They are meant to guide your own behavior. You cannot force someone to respect you, but you can decide what you will tolerate. When someone crosses your boundary, the boundary is reinforced by your response, not your explanation. Some people will test your boundaries repeatedly, hoping you will return to who you used to be. Stay consistent. Boundaries lose power when they are negotiable. Consistency teaches others how to treat you, and more importantly, it teaches you that your needs matter. Choosing self-respect over people pleasing is not easy, especially if you were conditioned to prioritize others at your own expense. But growth requires discomfort, and every time you choose to honor your limits, you step closer to a life that feels calmer, healthier, and more aligned. Boundaries are not walls built to keep love out. They are filters that let the right people in. And once you understand that, you stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace and start feeling proud of choosing yourself. In a world that constantly pushes you to react, explain, and defend yourself, choosing silence can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. Many people believe that staying quiet means losing, giving up, or allowing others to have the last word, but true strength is not always loud. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Toxic people often depend on your reaction. They provoke, criticize, accuse, or manipulate and pull you to pull you into emotional engagement. When you respond with anger or lengthy explanations, you give them exactly what they want: your attention, your energy, and your emotional investment. Silence breaks that cycle. It removes the fuel from the fire. Silence does not mean you agree. It means you refuse to participate in something that harms you. It means you recognize when a conversation is no longer about understanding, but about control. There is wisdom in knowing when words will not heal, but only deepen the wound. Distance works in the same way. Sometimes the healthiest choice is not to confront, but to step back. Not everyone deserves front row access to your life. Not everyone is capable of meeting you with respect, empathy, or maturity. Distance is not cruelty, it is clarity. It allows you to see situations for what they truly are without the emotional fog created by constant interaction. Many people feel guilty for creating distance, especially from those they care about. They tell themselves they are being dramatic, cold, or unforgiving. But protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. You cannot heal in the same environment that keeps hurting you. Silence and distance also give you space to reconnect with yourself. When you are no longer consumed by defending your feelings or managing someone else's emotions, you regain mental and emotional clarity. You start to hear your own thoughts again. You remember who you were before the chaos. And in that quiet, strength is revealed. It is important to understand that silence is not avoidance when it comes from self-awareness. Avoidance is running from growth. Silence, in this context, is choosing not to engage in dysfunction. It is choosing emotional maturity over emotional chaos. It is choosing peace over proving a point. People who are used to your reactions may become uncomfortable when you grow quiet. They may accuse you of changing, being distant, or acting superior. Let them misunderstand. Growth often looks like distance to those who benefited from your silence before you found your voice. Distance does not have to be permanent. Sometimes it is a pause, sometimes it is a lesson, and sometimes it is a final decision made quietly without drama. You do not owe everyone an explanation for your healing. When you master the ability to step back without resentment and remain silent without guilt, you gain control over your life. You stop being pulled into unnecessary emotional storms. You stop reacting from pain and start responding from wisdom. Silence and distance are not signs of weakness. They are signs of deep self-respect, emotional intelligence, and inner strength. And often, they are the smartest responses you can choose. One of the most exhausting emotional patterns is the belief that it is your responsibility to fix people who hurt you. Many kind, empathetic individuals fall into this trap. They try harder, give more, explain better, and stay longer, hoping that love, patience, or sacrifice will eventually change someone else's behavior. But healing does not work that way. You cannot heal yourself by carrying wounds that do not belong to you. Toxic people often rely on your empathy. They sense your compassion and use it as a reason to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. They tell you stories of their past pain, their struggles, and their intentions, and slowly you begin to feel guilty for wanting peace. While understanding someone's pain can create empathy, it should never become an excuse for enduring harm. There is a powerful difference between supporting someone and saving them. Support is healthy and mutual. Saving is one-sided and draining. When you constantly put others before yourself, you teach them that your needs are optional. Over time, this leads to resentment, emotional exhaustion, and a deep disconnection from who you truly are. Choosing yourself does not mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop abandoning yourself. It means you recognize that your healing is your responsibility, just as their healing is theirs. You are not required to stay in environments that stunt your growth just because someone else is not ready to change. Healing begins when you shift your focus inward. Instead of asking, how can I make this person treat me better? You begin to ask, why am I accepting this treatment? That question changes everything. It brings awareness to old patterns, unmet needs, and beliefs about worth that may have been formed long ago. When you choose yourself, you start listening to your intuition. You honor the discomfort instead of ignoring it. You recognize when something feels wrong and trust yourself enough to step away. This Trust is a crucial part of healing because it rebuilds your sense of safety from within. Many people fear that choosing themselves will make them lonely, but loneliness in peace is far healthier than companionship in chaos. When you stop fixing others, you create space for relationships that are balanced, respectful, and supportive. You attract people who meet you where you are, not people who need you to rescue them. Choosing yourself also means letting go of guilt. Guilt is often the last chain that keeps people stuck in toxic situations. But guilt fades when you understand that prioritizing your well-being is not wrong, it is essential. You are allowed to choose growth over familiarity, peace over attachment, and healing over history. In the end, healing is a personal journey. No one can do it for you, and you cannot do it for anyone else. The moment you stop trying to fix others and start choosing yourself, you step into your power. And in that power, you begin to heal fully, deeply, and honestly. At some point in life, wisdom replaces urgency. You stop reacting to everything, stop explaining yourself to everyone, and stop carrying emotional weight that was never yours to hold. Dealing with toxic people is not about winning, changing them, or proving your worth. It is about protecting your peace and honoring who you are becoming. You learn to trust patterns over promises, to value peace over arguments, and to set boundaries without guilt. You understand that silence can be strength, distance can be healing, and choosing yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. Growth teaches you that not every connection is meant to last, and not every lesson comes wrapped in kindness. When you choose yourself, you break cycles, you stop repeating the same pain in different forms. You create space for healthier relationships, clearer thinking, and a calmer life. And in that space, you finally breathe. The smartest way to deal with toxic people is not to harden your heart, but to strengthen your self-respect. Choose peace. Choose clarity. Choose yourself again and again.